Now that we've navigated through the module, let's look at what it takes to set up a simple time and material project. But first, we'll review some requirements when creating a project. All right, so on the right side of your screen here, you're seeing a prompt that comes up when you try and create a new project. And what it's asking for is the base required information to create a project. So the first thing that we'll look at is the project type. So project type is probably the most important, well, one of the most important things that you'll select here. Based on the requirements for the project will depict what project type you'll be picking. In our example, we're going to be billing based off of the time and material that are consumed to the project. So we want to pick a time and material project. And it's an external facing project as well. So there's a customer involved. So that's why we're picking time and material. And there's 6 total project types, but we'll get into those in subsequent modules. If you pick an external type project, well, I guess any type project, the next thing that you'll have, or one of the things that you'll have to pick select is the project group. Project group is a way to group projects together. It's a way to define what ledger accounts are used when you're posting business documents or journals. And there's other features around project groups, and we'll talk about those downstream as well. When you have an external facing project, you'll have to define the project contract ID. If this was an internal facing project, there would be no need to populate the project contract ID. But since this is external, it's a way to associate a customer or a funding source towards the project. And then we go back up to the top and we have the project number. Project number can be automatically defined depending on how you set up the number sequence associated with this reference value. So in my case, 138 was automatically defined, and yeah, you can have that manually defined as well if you'd like. So some of the other fields that I'm not specifically calling out on here are customer. When you populate the contract ID, the customer automatically defaults in. Project manager, it's just a drop down of all resources available, and you can select the PM that's going to be the PM on this project, and then you can set the start date for the project as well. All right, let's jump into the application and demonstrate creating a new project, and then we'll define some values in the details of the project as well. Okay, so we're in the home page for all the different workspaces. I'll just hit the hamburger and go to project management and accounting and jump into all projects. And then from here, we'll take the simplest method of creating a project, and that is by selecting the new button. You also have the option to create a new sub-project. So whatever project you had selected in the list below, you can create a new sub-project underneath it, or you could copy a project from a existing template. All right, so when I hit the new button, you can see that we have the prompt come over on the right-hand side, and it's exactly what we talked about in the last slide. We can define the project type, and if I hit the drop down there, we can see we have our 6 types. We'll define a time and material project, which is of external type, where you bill based off the materials and labor that you consume. So we'll call it consulting work, and we'll give it a project group. When we hit the project group drop down, you'll only see project groups towards your specific type. So when you define a project group, you say what type of project it works with. And in this case, we have 2 of them that are of project type time and material. So we'll get into the details of project groups downstream, but right now I'll just pick the time and material WIP project. And then we can select an existing contract ID, or we can create a new one. I'll just create a new one just to show that. And you don't have to name it, really. If you want to give it a specific name, you can. But you can see, I guess the first field we can look at is the contract ID field. That's auto-populating from a number sequence. Name, I'm going to leave it alone. Funding type we'll talk about in detail later on, but there's a lot of different ones. For this instance, we'll pick customer, and then the funding source will be of customer type. So here's all the different customers that we can pick, and I'll just pick Brakes and Gears is the customer that we're going to be working with, and you can see that the name auto-populates based on the customer that you select. And then their default currency pulls into. So I'll just hit OK. Now we're back on the new project prompt, and you can see that the contract number 104 pulled in for Brakes and Gears, and there's their customer account, and if you hover over it, you can see the name. If you want to assign a project manager, you can. Project manager is an important field for a few reasons. The My Projects list page will only show you projects that you are PM for. Also, if you're using line level workflow, you can assign to all your lines to the specific project manager, and that's another reason why you want to assign a project manager to a specific project if you're going to use workflow to have them approve timesheets for that specific project, among other reasons, but we'll get into that. And then we have start date as well that you can define, and we'll say that this one doesn't start for a while, and then we will create the project. Once you hit the Create Project button, now you're in the details of it. So we're looking at the details here. We already reviewed this in a previous lesson, but we'll just go and define some generic information in here. So we'll define the sales manager. We'll say it's Trisha. The controller is Julia. And then you can define all these other dates, which are important, but right now we haven't started or ended anything, so we're in the projected world, and we're just going to say this thing's going to run for a month. So I'm going to pick 4:30, and then we can go through all these different tabs if we want and fill them all out, but I'm just going to knock off a couple that are pretty common practice when you create a project. So financial dimensions, you want to go in and define your default financial dimensions. We can say that this is a consulting project, a strategy consulting type project, so we define the service line. If there are other default dimensions that you want to populate, you can. I'll just pick a business unit as well. We'll say that this is, we'll just pick IT consulting practice as well. So now when I create a business document, those two dimensions will default onto that business document. We also have the report sorting fields. If you want to add those, you could. And then the collaboration workspace as well. If you want to link one up or create one, you could do so. There's a lot more information to set up around the project. You could set up pricing and all that, but we'll get into it downstream. I just wanted to show you how to create a project and start defining some of the core fields on there. Okay.